Psychic Myth Paranormal Network.
Hi, this is Shar with Psychic Mist Paranormal Network and Elite Paranormal Specialists. Let's talk about something kind of eerie, like shadows, maybe? People have been seeing shadow figures for millennia, but rarely is there a sighting, and even more rare, is there any interaction going on. A lot of people see fleeting glimpses of shadows in their peripheral vision, but most of the time these shadows are in and out in the blink of an eye. They do no harm usually, and that's that. There are a lot more to shadows than you might think, so let's explore some of this today. If you have a resident ghost or two, these shadow glimpses are more than likely the residents who are just going about their daily business, or maybe they wanted to say hello or get your attention. There are different types of shadow ghosts that you could run into, and while the shadow glimpses are perhaps a little bit more occurring than a rare sighting for some, most people never witness them. Out of all the types of shadow ghosts, these are the most common and usually pose no threat. There are shadow spirits who travel through gateways and portals, and they are rarely seen more than one time, if at all. They are usually near stationary structures such as homes and buildings. They usually do not try to interact with us as they have their mysterious purpose, and do not stick around long enough for an attempt at communication. Very few of these shadow travelers have ever been photographed, and with the way they come and go so quickly, we just do not know what they are or why they come and go so fast. What can they possibly accomplish in a few seconds to a minute? While it is in theory only, these shadow travelers must work on a different time scale utilizing time passages. They jump wormholes like pros. This means that their quick minute visit here may really be equal to hours or even days to them. We humans can experience time warps, although extremely rare. And even if we don't see them, that doesn't mean that they're not there anymore, just like a ghost. Just like when you may have the rare opportunity to see a full-fledged apparition of a ghost, they are there 1 second and gone the next. But many times, they are really not gone, just no longer visible. It may be a matter of holding their manifestation based on their environmental surroundings and personal abilities. They can only hold their manifested form for a short period of time, so even when that materialization concludes, they may very well still be present. The shadow travelers do seem to come and go quickly, and they do not give off signals of their presence, such as thermal changes in EMFs, etc., making them next to impossible to perceive them either with our own senses or with the use of technology. Theory suggests that these beings range in species, and many are not biological. They are gatherers of information, a type of recorder of time. They survey and record for a higher being, perhaps a deity of sorts. There's another form of shadow being who is still very rare to come across, yet probably more frequently sighted than the shadow traveler. This type of shadow being is sometimes referred to as a hat man. These are a more malevolent type of being that take on a humanoid silhouette and can cause a polar opposite reaction in your energy field, causing you to experience fear and panic. They can manifest and at times attempt to hold you down or try to harm you in other physical means, even through psychic attacks. Not all, but the majority of this particular type of shadow being seem to be seen wearing a top hat of sorts. They can also be seen in the peripheral field of view as a shadowy black mass. It is very difficult to study these beings as the sightings are so rare, but the people who have interacted with them always report similar activity. There have been scarce instances of these beings caught on photo or video. They are negative in nature, produce fear, and could attempt something harmful, especially if they choose to stick around for an extended period of time. Most of them, when manifested into a form, are humanoid wearing a hat, but not always, typical of the paranormal, in which the word typical is anything but. A paradox in itself. Manifestation usually takes the shape of a shadow figure and not a typical apparition with any features or details. Most shadow men or shadow beings do not stick around so long, so you should refrain from trying to capture their attention for your own safety, and protection. If a shadow being does stay to cause trouble and torment you, further research is needed, as the being could be evil or otherworldly, malevolent, or even demonic. To be deemed as demonic, it would have to be confirmed that the long-term cases contained constant draining of energy and malevolent acts, where the entity in question showed a swaying or manipulation toward their intended victim or one of their close family members and friends. There have been reports of Hat Man sticking like glue to people since their childhood. This type of report seems to place many Hat Men in different categories altogether, a more otherworldly, evil category. Like I said, a true shadow being or shadow traveler doesn't stay long. Shadow men may stay for a short while, but move on soon after that, weeks to months. Longer-term issues should be seriously evaluated further. If the entity is deemed dark and malicious, call in an expert. I do want to mention that it is difficult enough to find help for a demonic case. You would think that Christian or Catholic churches would be able to help, but most of them cannot. To find help for a shadow being is extremely challenging indeed. You have to find someone who delves deeply into the dark side of the paranormal, because they usually understand more about how to help someone than someone who only works with light entities. There is the possibility that something that someone is involved in is what attracted one or more of these beings to begin with. You don't have to be a dark practitioner to attract one of these entities. You could be engaged in drugs, be an alcoholic, or even just extremely depressed. Habitual intoxication and dark, deep-seated emotions are feeding grounds for these beings. People involved in any type of paranormal endeavors are also at risk to attract these beings. Psychic protection does help to guard against most of them, but some of these otherworldly entities are impervious to basic protection skills. Paranormal work includes, but is not limited to, things such as ghost investigations, demonology, dark hauntings, magical practices, and psychic work. Just a note, I am not insinuating that any of these practices are malevolent or strictly used for malevolent purposes. If you work in the invisible worlds take notice. That is all there is to it. It is up to you to learn how to protect yourself, which means you need to know what types of beings lurk in these mysterious, imperceptible worlds and realms. If you should happen to come across one of these beings, be cautious. Do not try to provoke it and continue on without paying it any mind. If you acknowledge these creatures, you are going to give them something to incite their interest in you. Even if they are trying to goad you, don't communicate with them. Sometimes, depending on what type of being you are dealing with, this could be seen as an invitation by the laws of the universe. It is very interesting to note that almost all shadow beings seem to always appear as the male gender when enough of their essence manifests to notice. These beings may not even have a gender, but this is the way that most of them choose to appear. This is not to say that some may have appeared to be female. These beings are otherworldly entities, so a gender or even humanoid features may not even apply to them. There have been some pictures captured where they appear as a dark or black mass and nothing more. So let's take this one step further into an area where hopefully this information will expand your way of thinking. Are you afraid of your own shadow? There are instances where you should be. So, is your shadow dangerous? It couldn't be, right? Okay, so I hate doing this whole definition thing, but sometimes you have to take some definitions literally. Since this applies to this subject, let's check out the definitions of a shadow. 1. A dark area or shape produced by a body coming between rays of light and a surface. 2. Used in reference to proximity, ominous oppressiveness, or sadness and gloom. 3. Envelop in shadow. Cast a shadow over. 4. Follow and observe someone closely and secretly. It is very true that words play a much bigger part in true meaning than what we even give thought to. So a shadow is usually related to what most people think of in definition number 1. Just a dark shape that resembles your own, created by interruption of light and your own body. The other three definitions all contain words of suggested malice and animosity. Keep this in mind when we now discuss something that most people never heard of and probably will never hear of unless you are unfortunate enough to experience it or never saw this video. Your shadow is certainly not alive or contains its own sentient mind. However, your shadow does contain energy, and energy can not only attract more energy, but it can also be manipulated. If we examine the shadow as a part of your personal self, then it therefore represents your darker traits, your fears, your deepest, darkest secrets, things you don't even want to believe about yourself, things you deeply regret, things that haunt you, have deeply hurt you, things you would never let anyone else know and would take to your grave. Is that contained in your shadow? Surely that just must be a metaphor for your darker side that you lock up somewhere inside of you and throw away the key, right? Yes, this is right. Whew! Well, not so fast. Even though a shadow seems to be something no more and no less than just the interruption of light, it is a projection of yourself onto a surface. This projection contains energy, atoms, and the longer it appears on that solid surface, it grows energy. This energy is your indirect energy, and it represents your dark self, that place you want to keep locked up forever. As you walk, sit, or are present wherever your shadow gets the chance to show itself, even if it is behind you and you can't observe it, it will grow stronger and it will observe you, in a sense. The entire point is that it does have energy and it will grow stronger. Therefore, the energy of your shadow can be detected by other entities, and not just other entities, but by humans as well. I know that one might throw you off a little bit, and what I am about to say will have you raising your eyebrow in disbelief. Take it with a grain of salt, or do what you will with this information, but I have never been one to fake the truth. People who practice certain types of magic and other types of psychic people can locate your dark energies. They can locate your light energies, for that matter. It is totally possible, yet very unlikely, that you will run across someone who can actually infiltrate your shadow. But this is a possibility. Yes, you heard that right. It is totally possible to jump into another person's shadow and influence that person. The amount of influence is dependent upon the will of the victim, the protective shields they put up around them. And I am talking about psychic protection and the skills of the magical practitioner. For that matter, these people can also invade your dream state and influence you there as well. This is a form of psychic attack. Let's go one further. Some people do not have to use their own astral bodies to invade your shadow or dreams, but have others do it for them, such as a servitor, construct, or familiar. Here's the best part. Instead of some invader hijacking your energy, you can literally learn to jump into your own shadow. You can learn an awful lot about yourself when you do something like that. So these things are all literally possible, and it is very difficult to learn to do. It also goes against a person's free will, so there is karmic law in play for those that choose to break this law. The scary part about even that is that there is a way to break karmic law. These are all subjects for another time, because they are quite complex. I just wanted to open your mind a little bit more. The paranormal worlds have nothing to do with entertainment, but everything to do with amazement, bringing the impossible into the light and delving deeply to discover the mysteries found within. It is a journey unlike any other, I assure you. Oh, and when I spoke briefly about how words have more meaning to them than what you may think, the word shadow definitely has more to it than just your body interference with light. And the things that I spoke about today should give you just a little bit of insight into that. Also, check out my blog post about how harmless words have more meaning to them than you might think. And it is not just a coincidence that words and languages are made this way. It's called Say the Magic Word. I have a link to it below. If you've enjoyed this video today, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. It really helps to show your support and I really sincerely appreciate it. This is Shar with Psychic Miss Paranormal Network and Elite Paranormal Specialists. Have a fantastic night.